Welcome. Today we're going to make this attractive lantern arbor for the garden. Start off with two 36-inch boards. This is 5/4 pine rough cut. I already have one made, so I'm using it as a template. You can make any design you want with this. This is just something I came up with. You can use the bandsaw to cut it out. If you don't have a bandsaw, a saber saw would do. Okay, just lining it up. And now I'm going to take off some of the rough bandsaw marks. Sand it smooth, make it look good. Okay, now we're going to plane it down because it's rough cut pine, and I'm not looking for furniture grade, but I want it to make it look nice. Bring some of the grain out. Okay, I have rough edges. I should have done this from the start, so I'm going to run it through the joiner planer here and smooth things down. Okay, I'm going to use the router table to put a nice edge on it. Okay, now I have to cut the dado joint, so I'm going to do that with a little trim router. So I need like 2 1/4 inches to go off center and just blast out these joints. Okay, now I'm going to take the top slats and I'm going to rip them down with the remainder of the board that I had. They're going to be 15 inches long. They could be whatever height you want. Now I'm going to plane them down to 3/4 of an inch to match the dado joint that I put in the top of the rack. Okay, cut the 45s on there to make them decorative. Okay, now we're going to start with assembly. I want the inner width to be 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I made these blocks as spacers to hold it in place while I glue the top. Now I got to just make sure these slots are aligned so that everything fits together nicely. I'm going to clamp it in place and just give it a shot. I can see it's a little off. There we go. Get another clamp on it. Check my 3.5 inches. Make sure that it fits together. Now there's 3 lines. One's the center and the other 2 is where I want them to fit inside the rack. I'm going to use waterproof glue. Make sure it's coated nice in there. I don't want too much where it drips because I don't plan on sanding this, but I want enough to hold it well. And this is getting put in by eye. I'm not measuring anything. No one's going to ever notice that it's off a little except for the birds. Tap it in place. Now I'm going to nail it in with an 18 gauge brad, 2 inches. And we'll let this dry while we make the posts. Now these are landscape ties that I got into the local hardware store. Not very good wood. It's pressure treated. But what I do is I sand it down and try to make it look decent. There's one sanded against one that isn't, so put a little work into it, make it a little nicer. Now I'm going to take the 1 foot piece that I took off the bottom, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the curves off it, and I am going to use that for center supports on the rack. And now let's put the rack together. Okay, you notice I have little blocks under the center support. Since they're not as wide as the side supports, I wanted to center them correctly. Now I'm going to use watertight glue, and I'm going to clamp these, and I'm going to let it sit overnight. And tomorrow, I'm going to put big 4-inch screws in to hold it in place. These don't support any weight, maybe a pound for the lantern, but I still want them to hold everything in place so it doesn't warp, because this wood is notorious for that. Now it's important this part is square, so I'm just making sure everything fits in right. Double checking. Okay, this is a top piece that I made that's going to hold the rack onto the post. It's 3.5 inches wide, and that piece is just going to slide on top. The rack's going to slide on top of it, and we're going to nail it and glue it. Right now, I'm drilling it into the post. I'm going to be using big 4-inch deck screws for that. I'm also going to put the deck screws into the side now. And now it's time to set the top rack on here. I don't usually do it this way. Since this is for me, this is the experimental model. So I'm going to glue it up, which I don't usually do. A little glue doesn't hurt until I try to take it apart, but let's hope I never have to do that. Now the time to position the rack. There's a mark there that centers it. I know right where to put it. Now I'm just going to put some 2-inch nails in here. And then might pop a screw or two in too. Now I have all the holes drilled for the lantern hooks. I'm going to put them in right now. And there's our finished product. A little linseed oil on there and a little bit of stain mixed in with the linseed oil. But overall, I'm very happy with the way it came out. And let's hope it lasts 10 years.